Welcome to Starbound. My name is Aram. I'll be your narrator for today. But before we get into today's story, please check below to see if you've subscribed to the channel. It's 100% free and just allows our videos to show up on your feed more often. Dr. Emma Mill forced her hand to steady as she adjusted her microscope's focus. The Vashar vessel had appeared over New York 10 minutes ago, casting strange shadows across the United Nations Plaza as its surface caught the morning light. She'd spent years preparing for first contact, but nothing could have readied her for the reality of an alien ship hovering outside her laboratory window. "Dr. Mill?" Her assistant's voice cracked. "They're requesting you specifically for the welcoming committee." Emma nodded, removing her protective gloves with practiced precision. She'd chosen her outfit carefully that morning, a crisp navy suit that projected professionalism while allowing freedom of movement. As Earth's leading xenobiologist, she knew her observations in these first moments could prove crucial. The ship had descended in a way that shouldn't have been possible, moving with a precision that put human technology to shame. Now it sat silently on the north lawn, its surface moving like liquid metal under the crisp autumn breeze. A ring of security forces kept their distance, though their weapons seemed paltry when arrayed against something so far beyond anything humanity currently understood. Secretary General Damon stood beside Emma as the ship's entrance began to materialize. "Remember," he whispered, "humanity's future could depend on these next few minutes." Emma bit back a reply about unnecessary pressure. Instead, she focused on controlling her breathing as the opening widened to reveal their visitors. The Vashar emerged with fluid grace, their towering forms easily reaching 12 feet. Emma cataloged details with practiced efficiency, eyes that seemed to process light differently than any Earth species, and, most strikingly, an aura of absolute certainty in their movements. "Greetings, people of Earth." The words resonated in perfect English, yet Emma detected undertones, harmonic frequencies that suggested several layers of communication. "We come as representatives of the Alliance of Enlightened Species." Emma stepped forward when prompted, maintaining eye contact despite the Vashar's imposing height. "Welcome to Earth. I'm Dr. Emma Mill, Xenobiological Sciences Division." The lead Vashar, who introduced himself as High Counselor Vashin, inclined his head. "Your reputation precedes you, Doctor. Your work on comparative xenobiology is impressive, given your limited exposure to galactic life." Something in his tone made Emma's research instincts prickle. The compliment felt rehearsed, as though they'd studied exactly how to appear magnanimous. She pushed the thought aside, maintaining her professional demeanor as they were escorted inside. The Vashar moved with unsettling synchronization through the UN security checkpoints. Emma noticed they asked no questions about Earth's protocols, as though they'd memorized the building's layout in advance. Their knowledge of human customs seemed suspiciously comprehensive for a first contact scenario. In the main assembly hall, Vashin presented their offer with practiced eloquence. Membership in their alliance, along with access to advanced technology and medical breakthroughs. The centerpiece was a genetic enhancement serum, promised to extend human lifespans and boost cognitive function. Emma watched the delegates' reactions from her position near the stage. Their excitement was understandable. Who wouldn't want to advance centuries of development in a single step? But years of scientific training had taught her to question results that seemed too perfect. During the medical demonstration that followed, Emma observed the Vashar scientists treating a terminal cancer patient. While others marveled at the patient's rapid recovery, she noticed the scientist's reflection in a nearby screen. Their serene expression had slipped, revealing something clinical and calculating in those multifaceted eyes. They seemed more interested in studying how the cancer had damaged human tissue than in the patient's recovery or well-being. That evening, Emma sat in her office, comparing notes from the day's events. The Vashar's timeline of galactic history contained subtle inconsistencies. Their diplomatic credentials, while impressive, showed signs of careful curation. Most concerning was their dismissive attitude toward human technology, not the expected curiosity about a newly discovered civilization's development. She decided to begin a new encrypted database, documenting each discrepancy. When she tried raising her concerns with Secretary General Damon, he brushed them aside. "Dr. Mill, surely you're not suggesting we reject their offer based on, what, a feeling?" "Not a feeling," Emma corrected. "A pattern of behaviors that warrant further investigation before we commit humanity to this alliance." Damon sighed. "The Vashar are offering us the stars, Doctor. The public is already captivated by their promises. Unless you have concrete evidence of hostile intent, I suggest you focus on helping implement their enhancement program." Emma watched him leave, then turned back to her computer. She would continue her official duties, but something about the Vashar's perfect presentation felt wrong. She began typing, documenting every detail that didn't quite fit. The Vashar might have mastered humanity's languages, but they couldn't hide the subtle tells that suggested their benevolence was a carefully constructed facade. Ambassador Arthur Patel traced his thumb along his wedding ring as he studied the Vashar's presentation. Old habits from his SEAL days never quite faded. Counting exits, noting camera positions, measuring the distance between himself and High Counselor Vasheen. The embassy's marble walls felt more like an operating theater than a diplomatic venue. "The Serum has elevated every species we've encountered." Vasheen's harmonics filled the chamber. Behind him, a holographic display showed transformed civilizations, their achievements scrolling past in an impressive parade of technological and social advancement. "Extended lifespans, enhanced cognitive function, freedom from disease. We offer humanity the same gifts that united the Alliance." Arthur took measured notes, his pen scratching against paper rather than using the provided digital tablets. The Vashar's insistence on controlling serum production nagged at his tactical instincts. Their explanation, ensuring quality control and proper distribution, made sense on the surface. But Arthur hadn't survived 3 tours in hostile territory by accepting surface explanations. "Ambassador Patel?" Vasheen's multifaceted eyes fixed on him. "You seem troubled by our proposed distribution framework." Arthur smiled diplomatically, years of negotiation experience masking his unease. "Not troubled, Commander. Simply ensuring I understand the details. The Serum facilities will be Vashar-operated, with human medical staff in supervised support roles?" "Precisely. The process requires expertise developed over centuries." Vasheen stood tall, inhaling deeply, proud of their achievements. "We've prepared an initial distribution priority list." The data projected before them categorized Earth's population. Government leaders, military commanders, renowned scientists, influential cultural figures. Arthur recognized the strategic value of the selections. They represented humanity's command and control structure. During the afternoon briefing, he pressed for details about the serum's composition. Each question met the same response: assurances of safety, wrapped in technical language that revealed nothing of substance. Arthur noted how the Vashar representatives shifted topics whenever the discussion approached chemical specifics. That evening, in his private office, Arthur activated his secure terminal. His extensive experience of diplomatic service had taught him to prepare for worst-case scenarios. He began encoding messages, deployment orders for well-hidden surveillance teams, activation codes for dormant intelligence assets, data transfer protocols for secured servers. His daughter Maya's face appeared on his desk display, a photo from her graduation. He'd raised her alone after his wife's death, balancing diplomatic duties with bedtime stories and science projects. Now she worked in one of Earth's top genetic research facilities. Arthur encrypted one final message, addressed to her private channel. "Remember the contingency plans we discussed. Watch for my signal." The Serum administration chamber gleamed with Bashar medical technology. Arthur cataloged the details as the technicians prepared him. Unusual sensors that seemed focused on his neural patterns, monitoring equipment that tracked more than the standard vital signs. The Bashar observers studied him with an intensity that surpassed scientific curiosity.
"The procedure is entirely painless,"
the Bashar medical officer assured him.
"You may experience mild disorientation as the enhancement process begins."
Arthur settled into the reclined chair, maintaining his smile. As they administered the serum, he mentally rehearsed the dead man switch protocols he'd established. If he missed 3 scheduled check-ins, his encrypted data would automatically transfer to secure locations. The serum entered his bloodstream, cool at first, then spreading warmth through his veins. Arthur kept his breathing steady, decades of training helping him focus through the growing sensation of altered consciousness. The Bashar clustered around their monitoring equipment, their skin patterns shifting rapidly as they exchanged data. While they focused on their readings, Arthur pressed his thumb against his ring. The hidden transmitter inside activated, sending a coded burst signal to his network of hidden servers. Whatever happened next, evidence of the Bashar's suspicious behavior would reach the right people. The room began to blur at the edges. Arthur maintained his diplomatic posture even as the serum's effects intensified. He'd been first in line for the treatment, officially an honor, but he'd insisted on it to protect others in case his suspicions proved correct. The Bashar's attention remained fixed on their instruments, missing the slight smile that crossed his face. They might control the serum, but they couldn't control all the variables. Through the growing haze, Arthur focused on the Bashar's movements. Their careful monitoring suggested this was more than a medical procedure. They were waiting for something specific. His consciousness began to drift, but his military training held. Whatever the serum's true purpose, his contingency plans were in motion. He just had to maintain his facade long enough for the pieces to fall into place. Dr. Elias Trinholm adjusted his microscope's quantum resonance filter, watching as patterns emerged in the serum sample. His cat, Darwin, dozed on a nearby shelf, undisturbed by the late hour or his owner's growing agitation. He cross-referenced his observation logs from the past 6 months. Subject compliance rates had risen steadily, beyond what could be explained by the serum's advertised benefits. His colleague, Brooke, had noticed it first, how serum recipients grew increasingly passive, their creative approaches to problems replaced by rigid adherence to established protocols. Elias pulled up the behavioral analysis software he'd hidden behind routine diagnostic programs. The Bashar's monitoring systems tracked conventional research parameters, but missed his carefully disguised data collection. Graphs materialized on his screen, showing the correlation between serum exposure time and decreased initiative. His secure terminal chimed, another message from the underground network of concerned scientists he'd assembled. Dr. Yamamoto in Tokyo reported similar findings. Recipients followed instructions with machine-like precision, never questioning orders, even those that contradicted their previous ethical standards. Brooke's empty desk caught his eye. She'd vanished 3 days ago, shortly after discovering unusual energy signatures in the serum's molecular structure. The Bashar claimed she'd requested immediate transfer to an orbital research station. Her apartment remained untouched, her cat unfed. Elias switched samples, activating the specialized scanning equipment he'd constructed in secret. The Bashar's restrictions on studying the serum's composition had forced him to develop novel testing methods. He'd disguised his true research behind a facade of routine quality control. The scan revealed what he'd suspected: microscopic structures within the serum's molecular matrix. Not simple chemical compounds, but engineered components that interfaced directly with human DNA. He magnified the image, hands trembling as he documented the artificial constructs designed to alter human consciousness. His private server filled with encrypted data packets, disguised as routine medical records and distributed across multiple facilities.
each packet contained a fragment of his discovery, meaningless alone, but damning when assembled. He'd designed the system after Brooks' disappearance, ensuring no single breach could expose the full scope of his investigation. Darwin suddenly perked up, eyes twitching toward the corridor. Elias heard it too, the subtle whir of Vashar security drones. They were early. He'd expected at least another hour before they detected his unauthorized scans. He initiated his emergency protocols while maintaining his outward routine. The distributed data network would activate automatically, releasing his findings to key resistance figures he'd identified through careful observation. Ambassador Patel's daughter, Maya, would receive the first packet. Her position in the genetics division made her perfectly placed to verify his discoveries. The drone's whir grew louder. Elias transferred the final data fragments, his fingers moving with familiarity across the keys. Years of working alone, of finding patterns others missed, had prepared him for this moment. The Vashar would find his lab pristine, his research apparently focused on approved topics. He switched screens as the lab door opened, revealing 3 Vashar security officers. Behind them stood Dr. Damon from Facility Administration, his expression blank with the serum-induced compliance that had prompted Elias's investigation. Dr. Trenholm, the lead Vashar officer's voice resonated with authority. Your presence is required at the orbital research station. Immediately. Elias nodded, maintaining the careful facade of scientific detachment he'd perfected over months of covert research. Of course, I'll need to secure my samples. That won't be necessary. Please come with us now. He stood slowly, buying precious seconds for his final data transfers to complete. They'd find nothing suspicious in his lab. He'd designed his hidden programs to delete themselves the moment he logged out. The evidence of their true purpose was already spreading through secure channels, wrapped in layers of encryption that would unravel systematically over the coming weeks. Darwin watched from his perch as Elias followed the Vashar from his lab. The cat's tail twitched in agitation, sensing his owner's controlled fear. Elias had arranged for Maya to take care of him, another piece of the puzzle that would help her understand the true significance of the data she'd receive. The Vashar's escorts flanked him as they walked toward the transport bay. Elias kept his expression neutral, though his mind raced. The serum wasn't a gift of advancement, it was a tool of control, designed to subvert human consciousness while leaving technical capabilities intact. Perfect worker drones, intelligent enough to be useful, but unable to resist commands. He'd solved the puzzle too late to save himself, but as the transport doors closed behind him, Elias allowed himself a small smile. The Vashar would find no evidence of his discoveries, no trace of his true research. But across the globe, encrypted data packets were already moving through secure networks, carrying the truth to those still able to resist. Lisa Torres woke to the taste of electricity and the sensation of data streaming through her consciousness. Her small apartment in Mexico City felt both familiar and strange, as though she could sense the building's electronic pulse. The mandatory serum treatment she'd received last week had changed something in her perception. She reached for her tablet, fingers hovering over its surface. Numbers and patterns crystallized in her mind, security protocols and data structures she'd never consciously learned but somehow understood completely. A message flashed across her screen. We know you can sense us. You're not alone. The words resonated with a peculiar certainty. Lisa had grown up trusting her instincts, surviving on Mexico City's unforgiving streets by reading people and situations. This felt similar but deeper, like catching whispers of thought from minds reaching out through the digital void. Her grandmother's voice carried from the kitchen, singing softly while preparing breakfast for Lisa's younger siblings. Lisa grabbed her jacket and boots, mind already mapping connection patterns between scattered reports of unusual occurrences since the serum rollout. Her underground coding bootcamp had given her a network of trusted contacts. Now she could feel their presence like bright points of light in her expanded awareness. In a quiet cafe, Lisa connected to the local network, testing the limits of her new abilities. Lines of code flowed through her consciousness without needing to touch the keyboard. She crafted secure communication protocols that felt alive, adapting and evolving to protect the messages passing between others like her.
They tried to control us,
A message appeared in her private channel.
but the serum activated something they didn't expect.
Lisa tracked the signal to Maria Suarez, a former student who worked as a hospital data clerk. They met in person that afternoon, confirming through direct mental contact that the changes were real. Maria could access patient records by touching computer terminals. Others were developing similar abilities: enhanced memory, intuitive understanding of complex systems, direct neural interfaces with technology. Over the next weeks, Lisa expanded her network. She established secure drop points throughout the city, marking them with digital signatures that only the awakened could detect. Each new contact brought reports of others manifesting abilities: a mechanic who could diagnose machines by touch, a teacher who could share complex concepts through direct mental transfer, a security guard who could see all camera systems directly from within his mind's eye. The Vashar Rehabilitation Center loomed over the industrial district, its impressive architecture concealing the truth. It was a detention facility for those who resisted the serum's intended effects. Lisa coordinated with her growing network, probing the facility's defenses. The aliens' technology was advanced, but their rigid protocols couldn't adapt to abilities they hadn't anticipated. Maria's message arrived at midnight.
They're moving the prisoners tomorrow. It has to be now.
Lisa reached out with her enhanced consciousness, connecting with 20 others positioned around the facility. Their combined awareness flowed through the building's systems, creating invisible backdoors and security protocols. Guard patrols shifted subtly. Cameras developed mysterious blind spots, and electronic locks responded to phantom commands. 53 prisoners walked free that night. The Vashar discovered the breach too late, their reports showing nothing but routine system operations. Lisa's network absorbed the freed prisoners, connecting them with resistance cells led by military personnel who had also awakened to enhanced abilities. In her apartment that evening, Lisa sensed Vashar surveillance drones sweeping the neighborhood. She focused her thoughts, extending her awareness into their control systems. The drone's programming resisted for a moment, then yielded to her mental override. She redirected them with a thought, sending them to investigate false signals across the city. Her grandmother watched from the doorway, understanding in her eyes.
You're just like your father, always fighting for others.
Lisa smiled, remembering her father's lessons about community and resistance. He'd died fighting corrupt officials, never knowing his daughter would face an even greater struggle for human freedom. A new message illuminated her screen. Admiral Reeve requests contact. The military resistance needs our civilian network. Lisa's mind already traced possible secure communication routes. She had contacted others across the city, all of whom were awaiting instructions, ready to coordinate their next strike. Her younger sister, Rosa, appeared in the doorway, eyes bright with unspoken knowledge. Lisa recognized the same awareness she'd seen in other awakened minds. The serum's effects were spreading, creating not a controlled population, but a new kind of humanity.
Teach me,
Rosa whispered, holding up a tablet displaying complex patterns that echoed their shared mental enhancement. Lisa nodded, extending her consciousness to her sister's awakened mind. The Vashar had yet to see exactly what humanity could become when pushed to evolve. Admiral Callum Reeves stood at the viewport of his underwater command center, watching bioluminescent creatures dance in the Pacific depths. The base, formerly a classified submarine facility, now housed humanity's largest resistance operation. 3,000 feet of ocean shielded them from Vashar detection systems, while their enhanced humans learned to stretch their new abilities. He studied the tactical display showing Vashar ship movements across the Pacific. Since the serum had awakened his enhanced perception, he processed tactical data with unprecedented clarity. He could literally see the gaps in their patrols, the spaces and times where openings or bypasses emerged as if it were a video game screen artificially highlighting them. But this was no video game. "The Challenger team is ready, sir," Commander Blythe reported, interrupting his analysis. "They've been practicing the neural interface techniques." Reeve nodded, following Blythe to the training chamber. Inside, 20 evolved humans sat in meditation poses, their minds linked to salvaged Vashar technology. They discovered that repeated use of their abilities enhanced them, like a muscle, strengthening through use. Carlotta Martinez demonstrated first, interfacing with a Vashar navigation unit. Her consciousness merged with its systems, bending its software to her will. 3 months ago, she'd barely managed to access basic functions. Now she rewrote its core programming with a thought. "Their abilities are advancing faster than projected," Dr. Damon noted, checking his data tablet. "Martinez's neural connection speed has doubled since last week." Reeve watched the others practice, each showing similar improvement. He'd selected them carefully. Former pilots, engineers, and tactical officers whose military training enhanced their natural abilities. Together, they formed the core of Operation Trojan Horse. In his private office, Reeve reviewed the operation plans. The Resistance had spent months orchestrating equipment failures and navigation errors, subtly herding Vashar ships into position. Their arrogance made them predictable. They'd assume human technology simply couldn't match their standards. A shell collection decorated his desk, remnants of his childhood fascination with marine biology. He lifted a spiral nautilus, admiring its mathematical perfection. Nature had taken millions of years to evolve such complexity. Humanity was achieving similar transformation in months. His secure terminal chimed with an update from Lisa Torres' civilian network. Her people had successfully infiltrated Vashar maintenance crews, positioning evolved humans throughout their Pacific fleet. The pieces were in place.
"Sir,"
his aide interrupted.
"the Challenger team reports they're ready for Phase 1.
Reeve activated the command center's tactical display. 3 Vashar ships glowed as green markers, their primary targets. Each contained Resistance members waiting for the signal. Months of preparation had led to this moment. "Commence Operation Trojan Horse," he ordered. "All teams execute on my mark." The operation unfolded with precision. On each targeted vessel, evolved humans interfaced with critical systems. Engineering crews reported mysterious malfunctions, navigation arrays failed, communication networks went dark. The Vashar responded exactly as predicted, following standard protocols that played into the Resistance's plan. Reeve watched tension build in the Vashar command channels. Their rigid hierarchy slowed their response time, requiring authorization for each contingency. By the time they realized the true threat, it was too late. The Resistance teams struck simultaneously. Enhanced abilities that had seemed like parlor tricks months ago now overwhelmed Vashar security systems. Humans were now able to control the Vashar technology through neural interfaces they never would have even considered possible. "Pacific defense grid is compromised," Blythe reported. "All 3 targets secured. Minimal casualties on either side." Reeves studied the tactical display, watching Vashar vessels redirect to investigate the communications blackout. They still didn't understand what had just happened, that their supposedly docile workforce had systematically dismantled their Pacific defense grid and captured 3 vessels. In his office that evening, Reeve documented the operation's results, recording all the new traits that were being reported by those who had received the serum. His wife's message waited on his personal channel.
"The kids say their abilities are growing too. Even little Isabel interfaced with her computer today."
Reeve considered the implications. The serum's effects weren't limited to the original recipients. They were spreading to those in close proximity to them, seemingly like a viral disease, one which did not attack its host, but instead helped them thrive. It was clear there would be no returning to what they had been. He lifted the Nautilus shell again, tracing its spiral pattern. Evolution usually progressed through countless small changes driven by natural selection, but humanity had been forced to adapt in a single generation. Their children would be born into a changed world, their potential unknown. The tactical display showed their captured Vashar ships moving into position, their crews learning to merge human intuition with alien technology. This victory was just the beginning. This wouldn't be like the revolutions or revolts of humanity's past. They weren't simply overthrowing conquerors. They were advancing humanity to the next stage of evolution. A quote from Sun Tzu came to mind. "Supreme excellence consists of breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting." The Vashar's attempt to control humanity had instead created their own defeat, proving Sun Tzu wrong. They would learn too late that evolution, once begun, couldn't be contained. High Counselor Vasheen studied Earth through his command ship's observation dome, its blue sphere mocking his carefully laid plans. Data streams from ground monitoring stations showed spreading patterns of serum resistance. More than resistance, the serum was failing entirely and producing unpredictable results instead. His feelings of intense distress were quickly suppressed before his subordinates could notice. The council chambers filled with his fellow Vashar leaders, their manifestation patterns betraying growing alarm despite their attempts at composure. Vasheen activated the neural interface, projecting the latest statistics across the chamber's shimmering walls.
The serum anomalies are spreading,
Science Director Va Len reported.
Genetic structures we targeted for suppression are instead showing signs of enhancement.
Vasheen's mind drifted to previous conquests, all who had succumbed within days, their neural pathways perfectly accepting the serum's subtle manipulations. The Vexima colonies surrendered without resistance, their populations transformed into productive, compliant workers. Each success had reinforced Vashar supremacy. High Counselor, Military Commander Va Keth interrupted his reflection. 3 more vessels lost contact in the Pacific region. Vasheen accessed the tactical data. The ships had reported standard operations, then gone silent, just like the previous losses. Humans they'd cleared for maintenance work had somehow bypassed security protocols that had proven impenetrable to dozens of other species.
Show me the genetic comparison,
Vasheen ordered, bringing up archived data from previous subjugations. The patterns were clear. Where other species' genetic structures had simplified under the serum's influence, human DNA was growing more complex. Their consciousness, far from being suppressed, was expanding. The chamber erupted in intense discord as more reports arrived. Vasheen watched his fellow council members' composure crack. Their entire strategy had been based on centuries of successful biological manipulation. No species had ever rejected the serum's influence, let alone turned it to their advantage.
The humans in Pacific Sector 6 have developed direct neural interfaces with our technology,
Va Len reported.
We could see their communication inputs interfering within our system's interface. They're getting stronger, smarter. They're adapting our own systems faster than we can modify them.
Vasheen remembered his first victory ceremony, celebrating the subjugation of the Agirans. He'd promised them enlightenment while watching their civilization's leaders grow docile and compliant. The humans had smiled just as gratefully while accepting the serum, but neither them nor the Vashar anticipated how the humans would respond to the effects of the serum, something his species had never encountered before. High Counselor, Va Keth's harmonics showcased military rigor. We must tell the officials that this has now escalated to a status of emergency, and emergency protocols will be determined and implemented as soon as possible. Vasheen brought up the classified files detailing the serum's true purpose. Decades of research had perfected its ability to suppress independent thought while preserving technical capabilities. The Vashar Empire had grown through subversion rather than force, transforming conquered populations into willing servants. The biological weapon they'd spent centuries perfecting had become a catalyst for unprecedented evolution. Vashin accessed the emergency protocols, authorization codes flowing through his neural pathways. One option remained: orbital platforms capable of irradiating Earth's atmosphere. The process would devastate the planet's biosphere, but it would eliminate the evolved humans before they grew too powerful to contain. "Prepare the radiation protocols," he ordered. "Full planetary coverage." The Council fell silent. They'd never needed such extreme measures. Their methods of conquest had always been subtle, maintaining the resources they sought to claim, but the humans had forced their hand.
High Counselor,
Va Lin's harmonics carried warning.
the radiation protocols require 30 hours to achieve optimal coverage. Given the sheer speed that the humans have demonstrated,
"We have no choice." Vashin cut him off.
"The serum has failed. Everything we believed about genetic manipulation was wrong. The humans are beyond resistance entirely and now seek to turn the tables. I refuse to allow these upstarts to sully our history."
He studied Earth's image again. The Vashar had believed themselves the pinnacle of evolution, shepherding lesser species towards useful servitude. Instead, they'd created a monster. Vashin sent the activation codes to their orbital platforms. They had 30 hours to prevent humanity's evolution from spreading beyond Earth. After that, nothing in their empire would remain certain. This species they'd dismissed as primitive had shattered centuries of Vashar supremacy. Maya Patel adjusted her microscope's focus, studying the cellular changes in her father's latest tissue sample. The underground lab in Bangalore hummed with activity as her team processed data from evolved humans across the globe. Her father's transformation had been the first she'd witnessed personally, his military demeanor giving way to unexpected bursts of insight and connection. She cross-referenced the neural activity patterns displayed on her screen. The Vashar serum should have dampened synaptic responses. Instead, the samples showed neural growth. New connections formed at rates beyond what current research indicates is possible.
Dr. Patel?
Her assistant called from the data center.
You need to see these results.
Maya joined her at the central display, where test results from hundreds of evolved humans scrolled past. Nearly 80% reported developing telepathic abilities within weeks of serum exposure. Their cognitive function tests showed enhancement across every measured parameter.
Look at the pattern matching scores.
The assistant highlighted a particular data set.
They've gained telepathic abilities that enhance group performance, making them able to communicate both instantaneously and without a trace.
Maya pulled up her father's latest status report. His military intelligence network had expanded, connecting evolved humans across continents. They coordinated with an efficiency that suggested more than simple communication, an ability to share ideas words could not effectively describe. She remembered his last message. "The serum didn't change us, Maya. It awakened something that was always there, waiting for the right catalyst." The genetic sequencing data supported his intuition. Maya isolated markers that correlated with specific enhanced abilities. Some individuals developed stronger telepathic connections, whilst others showed developments in their technological understanding and application. The serum wasn't suppressing these traits. It was activating latent potential encoded in human DNA. The results that were coming back from some of the tests done on serum recipient patients were shocking. The density of neurons in areas of the brain responsible for memory and communication was unlike anything she'd ever seen before. Her team had tracked these changes across different genetic profiles. Certain markers predicted which abilities would manifest, but the expressions weren't limited by heredity. The serum had activated a system for sharing beneficial adaptations across the entire population. Maya's private terminal chimed with an encrypted message from Lisa Torres's resistance network. More evolved humans were manifesting abilities daily. The Vashar's attempt to suppress humanity had instead created an opportunity for growth that none could have foreseen. She studied the cellular imagery, remembering late nights in her mother's medical lab. Her mother would have understood immediately. She'd always said human potential was limited by artificial constraints. The Vashar had removed those constraints, expecting submission, but delivering transcendence.
The cognitive enhancement isn't just mental,
Maya explained to her team.
The serum modified how human consciousness interfaces with reality itself. We're not just thinking differently, we're perceiving and interacting with the world in fundamentally new ways.
Her father's latest scans showed neural structures that hadn't existed months ago, yet his personality remained intact. The military strategist and protective father unchanged by the sudden increase in general intellect and perception. Maya knew these findings would reshape humanity's understanding of their own potential. Her assistant brought fresh tissue samples from recently evolved humans. Each set of results confirmed the pattern: accelerated adaptation, enhanced capabilities, and unexpected neural growth.
Begin full spectrum analysis on the latest samples,
she instructed her team.
Focus on tracking adaptation rates across different genetic profiles. We need to understand how these changes are spreading through the population and ensure the adaptations don't turn into something dangerous. And perhaps one day, we might be able to replicate these effects ourselves to further benefit humanity.
Captain Emma Mills tracked 23 battle groups simultaneously, coordinating the captured Vashar vessels through Earth's orbital space. Her flagship's bridge hummed with focused activity as evolved humans mastered the Vashar alien technology, now commanders of the ships that had once been used to subjugate them. Vashar radiation platforms activating in sectors 3 through 7, her tactical officer reported. Neural data flowed between their cybernetics enhancements, allowing for instantaneous communication of battle information at the speed of thought. Emma directed 3 battle groups to intercept, their crews using their telepathic skills to ensure synchronicity and combat effectiveness. Where once they'd struggled to operate Vashar technology, now they wielded it with native fluency. Her own mind could process tactical data she was receiving from different crews, multiple perspectives, all at once.
They're trying to use the gamma rays to ignite the atmosphere and critically damage the planet,
she noted, watching Vashar energy signatures build across their orbital platforms.
All ships, concentrate fire on their power distribution nodes.
As the battle unfolded, human technicians interfaced directly with captured Vashar weapons, while evolved soldiers generated protective fields around vulnerable systems. A Vashar battlecruiser emerged from faster-than-light travel, its weapons charging. Emma sensed its crew's thought patterns, rigid, hierarchical, unable to adapt to humanity's unrivaled tactics. She telepathically broadcasted interference through their communication systems, disrupting their carefully orchestrated attack efforts. The ship's weapons fell silent as its crew struggled to work out what was happening.
Radiation platforms at 60% charge,
her science officer warned.
15 minutes to ignition.
Emma directed her fleets towards their next target, initiating a coordinated response. We had learned to combine our abilities, creating effects that were far greater than the power of any individual. Shield generator officers linked their ship's energy fields, while weapons officers synchronized strike patterns through telepathic communication. The Vashar command ship launched fighters, their reflective builds catching sunlight as they approached Emma's position. She sensed uncertainty in their tactical patterns. They'd never faced opponents who literally knew their next move before they'd even made it.
All ships execute pattern Delta,
she commanded. Emma's scientific training helped her recognize the patterns in Vashar technology. Their ships operated on principles similar to their biological serum, attempting to impose order through rigid control. But humanity had transformed that control into something new. The neural interfaces allowed telepathic communication. This was invaluable during high-stakes battles, issuing commands in a fraction of a second. The technology responded to thought patterns, adapting in real time to human intuition and creativity when connected via the neural interface.
Radiation platforms at 80%,
Tactical reported.
Vashar reinforcements approaching from lunar orbit.
Concentrate all fire on the primary distribution node, Emma ordered. Engineering teams, prepare to broadcast interference signals on my mark. The fleet moved as one organism, coordination optimized through expert communication. Another interference signal was sent out, and the Vashar vessels reeled in confusion and disarray took hold across numerous crews. In that moment of weakness, Emma's fleet struck. Combined weapons fire concentrated on exactly calculated points, overloading shield harmonics and piercing defensive screens. The radiation platforms began to break apart, their power systems overloaded by the targeted volley. Humanity's evolved capabilities proved superior to Vashar technology. All platforms neutralized, Tactical reported. Vashar fleet retreat into lunar orbit. Emma instructed the fleet to assess damage and coordinate repairs. Chief Engineer Callahan pressed his palm against the ship's control panel, his neural link activating with a faint hum. Data flooded his mind. Stress fractures along the port hull, failing power relays, a coolant leak in the aft engines. He relayed instructions with a thought, and drones swarmed to reinforce the weakest points, while nanite swarms sealed microfractures in real time. Nearby, Lieutenant Voss connected to the weapons array, recalibrating target systems faster than any manual repair crew ever could. The Earth turned below, its atmosphere safe from Vashar sterilization. Emma remembered her first encounter with their ships, when she'd sensed something wrong in their perfect facade. And she was right. And now here she stood, having defended Earth from the threat she spotted on day one. However, this battle was just the beginning. Humanity was far from the only species the Vashar had conquered through erasure of their personality. But they were the first to survive it and fight back, and they would not stop until the galaxy was free of Vashar tyranny. High Counselor Vashin watched his empire crumble through multiple information feeds. Across Vashar space, subject species were awakening to their own potential. His skin revealed his intense feelings of despair as reports flooded in from every sector. On Earth, Lisa Torres coordinated a worldwide network of evolved humans. They had learned to channel their abilities into environmental restoration, healing damage caused by centuries of industrial development. Ancient deserts bloomed as evolved humans reshaped terrestrial biology.
The Exocs have broken free,
Vashin's subordinate reported.
They're developing unique abilities of their own. Our control protocols are failing.
In a hidden factory beneath Montreal, Maya Patel worked with representatives from 3 different species. Their genetic structures showed similar potential to humanity's, unique abilities suppressed by Vashar Serum. But now humanity knew what to look for. They could undo the constraints and awaken their potential. Vashin's command center erupted in turmoil as more reports arrived. Junior officers openly questioned their leaders, their rigid hierarchical conditioning breaking down. The truth of their empire's foundation, systematic subjugation through biological manipulation, could no longer be contained. Admiral Reeve coordinated with resistance forces across multiple worlds, his enhanced skills making cross-species communications possible. In hopes of connecting with other species who have been the victims of the Vashar, humans have been routinely sending out signals through space, after having developed advanced technology to travel further and faster than anything that currently existed.
The Legatari colonies have declared independence,
another officer reported.
They're dismantling our infrastructure. Our garrison troops are standing down.
Valen, Vashin's chief scientist, approached with uncharacteristic hesitation.
High Counselor, our analysis suggests the humans have achieved something unparalleled. They're not simply resisting our control, they're actively enhancing other species' natural potential.
The Alliance was built on lies, a young Vashar officer declared, demonstrating a defiant, rebellious streak. We claimed to enlighten other species while suppressing their true potential. The humans have shown us our error. Vashin accessed the deepest Vashar archives, searching for answers. Their empire had begun with the discovery of biological manipulation, using sophisticated compounds to control other species' development. With specificity and patience, they had rewritten the genetic destinies of countless civilizations, molding them into subservient castes, each species carefully engineered for a purpose. Farmers, laborers, warriors, scholars, none had ever broken free from the meticulous designs imposed upon them. Until now. Ambassador Patel coordinated diplomatic connections between newly awakened species. The resistance that began on Earth had evolved into something greater, a genuine alliance of free peoples, each discovering their own unique potential in open defiance of the false alliance founded by the Vashar.
The outer colonies are reporting mass awakening,
Vashin's tactical officer announced.
Our control systems are failing everywhere. The humans' influence is spreading faster than we can contain it.
Lisa's network tracked the changes spreading through known space. Evolved humans had learned to share their understanding without imposing control, teaching other species to break free from Vashar influence while maintaining their own identity. Vashin watched his officers desert their posts, their conditioning dissolving as they confronted the truth. Centuries of Vashar supremacy had been built on suppressing other species' potential, and that was now coming to an end. The Vashar had created their empire through control and dominance. Humanity has shown a different path, a genuine cooperation between unique individuals and species alike, each contributing their own perspective and abilities.
We were wrong,
Va-Len admitted, his voice carrying defeat.
We thought ourselves the pinnacle of evolution, but in truth we simply beat down other races and claimed the pinnacle of a pile of rocks. Now we suffer the cost of our arrogance.
The balance of power had shifted irreversibly. The Vashar empire of control and suppression was ending, replaced by something they had overlooked as ever being a possibility: genuine cooperation between truly enlightened species.